The extra special icing on the cake for me was that what I rapped about was eating pussy.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Made It Out and to our very first episode of June, my favorite month of the year, Pride Month. And to kick things off, we're here with Kat Cunning, who is an incredible actor. You might recognize them from Trinkets or my personal favorite, Rap Shit, and also an incredible musician. And today they're here to talk about their journey in the arts and how it has been intertwined with their fluidity and gender expression. We're just going to go.
We've been going.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going.
Tell me about yourself. Where were you born? What were you like as a kid?
I was born in Gresham, Oregon, which is a town close enough to Portland that I knew what healthy food was. But as a kid, I was pretty immediately, since my earliest memory, entranced by ballet and dance. And my parents rented a Balanchine version of Sleeping Beauty from the library, and it's the legend is told that it's the first time I stopped crying. Oh. And then they put me in dance school, and I was just obsessed with dance. That's my main memory of my childhood. But I was also really funny, and I had this dramatic contrast between my dance costume and my life costume. I would always wear my brother's clothes, like big old t-shirts and spandex shorts, and I wore my hair kind of like this, but more intensely slicked back. And I made kids at church call me broccoli. Yeah, I don't know. I was a nice guy. I was a cool kid, and I loved dancing.
When did you realize that you were queer?
This is such a fun story. So when I was in high school, I had this friend, shout out Brittany, and we would hang out and watch scary movies. I don't really like scary movies, but I thought Brittany was hot. And we dry humped a little bit, and we made out once because people dared us to at a basketball game. And this was the MySpace era, so someone took a photo of us making out. Honestly, compositionally, an incredible photo. Stand by it to this day. But it was on MySpace, and somebody sent that photo to my dad's house and said, your child is engaging in pornography on the internet. And I was upstairs with Brittany when he got this, and he called me downstairs and said, he had tears in his eyes, and he said, if you're gay, you can tell me. Instead of being mad at me, instead of falling for whatever person from his church sent this to him and getting upset, he just was like, I want you to feel safe to tell me things. Oh. And genuinely at the time, I did not believe I was gay because me and Brittany were hanging out. We were emo kids. Everybody was kissing and being like BFF forever. And so I said, I'm not gay. Don't worry about it. And then I went to college and I fell in love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops.
I was like, oh shit, there was something to that dry humping. Wow. And yeah, it was the iconic, older, more butch lesbian takes you under their wing and fucks up your life for a second.
Yeah.
It was incredible. I wouldn't change it, but it was also I was probably at risk of graduating college for a second. I was not going to classes.
Oh yeah. She was consuming your life.
Just a lot of sex. Yeah.
Haven't we all been there?
Right? I hope for everyone that is something like the first story.
Yeah. But it sounds like you always were a little bit different because you said you were wearing your brother's clothes.
Yes.
And then you were going to ballet and you had this kind of, it sounds like almost dual life.
100%.
Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, I think that from the beginning, I just didn't really fucking care about my gender or my gender expression because all I cared about was dance. And in a ballet class, you're told what to wear. It's a uniform. It's pink tights. It's a black leotard. It's pink canvas shoes, and your hair is slicked back in a bun. And that was my identity at school. Obviously, I didn't go to school in those clothes, but I did go to school with my hair in a bun and a hairnet. I was like, I don't care about figuring out who I am outside of this craft.
Yeah.
So the more I pursued a career in ballet specifically, I I just like learned these feminine affectations that are still a comfort zone for me. Like a red lip actually is something my friends have trained me out of. They're like, you look like you're from the 80s. Like, what are you doing? But it's like a comfort zone for me because that's what you wear on stage. And slicking back your hair, it makes me feel like I'm getting ready for war. And like, I never, ever liked the pink tights. Those are rude. They should rule those out forevermore. It's fucking heinous. Like the second you hit puberty, it's like my cellulite is not for the public. Let me wear sweats. This is a workout. This is a sport. But yeah, I think that it took me a really long time to even take an interest in figuring out how I express myself as a human. At the end of the day, I don't really think that expression has much to do with identity. I think that our gender expressions are informed by constructs that are built around us that are heteronormative, and like all clothes are play. So I'm really grateful to still have that perspective and feel like everything is an option to me. Like some days I really wish that I could cut all of my hair off and like be more in my butch bag, because it honestly communicates a more accurate depiction of what you're going to get with me day to day, or what you're going to get with me in sex, or what you're going to get with me, how I really want to be received. But I really resent the idea that I have to commit to a costume in society in order to be received for who I am. I'm really confident in my identity, and I like that my body is a canvas, and I think I'll always sort of have that perspective. And I'm so lucky that my career gives me opportunities to shapeshift. And I choose my presentation based on having that flexibility.
Yeah. Sometimes though, do you feel like because you present very feminine, there's also a flip side to that? Like,
yeah, but I think as a Scorpio, I kind of love that I have to put people through the test of whether or not they're willing to see past that superficial presentation. And I am also okay with sort of flying under the radar in situations with people that I don't care to know intimately. I really believe in words. I believe in conversation. I believe in getting to know a person as they think and are and receive the world and witness other people. And the people who get closest to me are the people who are willing to imagine genuinely beyond the binary. I think that to be non-binary for me is both personal and political. I resent that we expect even people within the queer community to express themselves in ways that essentially align with what we know of women and what we know of men. And I think usually when we get to know each other intimately, we're all of those things. And when we give ourselves permission, we're all of those things. But I just think I prefer my other forms of communication versus fashion or genuine presentation, because if I were to cut my hair, I know the next day I'd be like, I want it really long again. I'm like, I want all of my options. And with my hair now, I can slick it back into things that make my face look more severe, and I can let it down and it can be really fluffy and I can look like a crazy person if I want to. But like, yeah, ultimately both of those sides have always lived in me, but they're also not really two sides. It's just like a plethora of options every day. And at the end of the day, every person in this room is just a bunch of atoms. And like the more freedom you give yourself to like play in that, the more joyful life is.
You're very evolved in your way of thinking when it comes to that. Do you think it's been like a journey to get there? Have you struggled with that at all?
No, to be honest. I think it's always been really innate, and I get sort of frustrated with how difficult it is for people to wrap their head around. Even people in the queer community. Like, I genuinely think all clothes are drag. Like, we all do gender affirming things that affirm the way we want to be received. And yeah, even in the queer community, we expect people to be in this certain costume for pride. And I feel in my identity that often leans more masculine. Like I love the feminine drag, which lands me in this weird neutral of like, you're a girl. Oh, you're a hot girl. Cool. Love it. Bored. We've seen it. Like, is it giving Taylor Swift? Who knows? And I'm like, that's absolutely funny to me, low-key, because I don't know. It's just all stuff that you can play with. And I hope people catch up. I hope people become more willing to imagine beyond those indicators of what a person is and how they want to be treated. But for me, for now, asking people to acknowledge my pronouns is that communicator. Mm-hmm. And for the people who don't, I'm also okay with that, because I don't have the energy to dominate a whole room with the topic of my pronouns when there are so many other things at hand. And I really appreciate it about the people that do, and who do make an effort to communicate their gender with the way they present and are willing to have conversations about it. Mm-hmm. And I'll have conversations about it. I'm here having a conversation about it. But when I communicate my pronouns in like a space of work, I definitely have boundaries. Like on set, there was everyone was working so hard to get my pronouns right. Mm-hmm. And I loved that. Some of them just started calling me Big Daddy because it was easier. And I was like, that's great. Just make an effort. But at the end of the day, people are curious. Even my mom is like, if I understood why, I would be more inclined to get it. And that is sort of my boundary. Like, I feel like when people ask that, what they're asking for is, please explain to me the trauma you experienced that led you to this decision. There is no grand reveal.
Right.
I just know who I am, and and now we have access to a word for it. Mm-hmm. And since we do, if I ask you to acknowledge that, then I'm giving you the keys to loving me well.
Right.
I'm giving you the permission to know me. And other than that, you can Google the rest of what a non-binary person is.
Right. Like, do the work.
Yeah. And I don't want to be cold about it, but there is like a certain level of, especially because I present in a way that people perceive to be feminine. Like, just for shits and giggles, imagine that I am super buff, have facial hair, and you imagine I have a dick, but I'm wearing everything I'm wearing right now, including makeup. Mm-hmm. I suppose this lipstick, yes, 1,000%. You'd be like, you're presenting femininely. But it's also, to me, just like crayons. Like, I'm just playing on my face and doing what I think is fun with it for my day outside. I feel like this looked cute when I walked out. Who knows what the lighting's like now? Listen, I don't know what the contour is doing. But yeah, I think of it all genuinely outside of a man and woman idea. And I resist the idea of trying to align with what people perceive as a man, because that's for somebody other than me.
Yeah.
But some days it just happens naturally and I look fine as fuck. I had this one friend a long time ago. Yes, we made out once. We had sex. I don't know why I said that. But she once said that I walk like Calamity Jane. I walk like a cowboy with a big dick. And this was in a very, very femme presenting moment of my life. And that was like such an affirming thing to hear. I was like, I do, huh? You're right. You've seen me through this visage. You've seen me through past this lens of people who are perceiving me as like someone who is, I had like bleached blonde hair, was this long. I was a server in a restaurant, and she was like, I see you walk a little different. And that could be neither here or there for someone. But for me, I was like, you're picking up on something that I feel is true about me. And I'm putting that in my pocket. And shit, it's not really worth questioning if it makes you feel loved. If that makes all the atoms in my body be like, purr, instead of like, then that's all I really need to know.
I know you grew up in dance. How did your fluidity evolve within that space? And was it an accepting space?
Good question. I think it's really twofold. Like, ballet, like most art forms historically, have still been pretty male-led. So like ballet companies...
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the world is mostly built on a patriarchal structure.
I mean, fair. I guess I should have
doubt, it's probably patriarchal. But the ballet especially, if you think about it, like women are trained to be waif-like. They're trained to not eat, but still be Olympic superheroes. And at the end of this like Olympic shape you make, you learn to make sure your hand is relaxed like a fucking little leaf in the wind. So there is this thing where like the craft we're engaging in is hyper heterosexual. The men get to do the fun stuff in ballet. They get to do the coda that's really muscular. They get to do a different kind of fouette where their leg is out and it's like wider and more grand, and they get to do all the Prince shit. And the women do equally incredible things while hiding that it's hard.
Wow.
So modern, once you open the door to modern, it becomes like modern essentially came after ballet. So like when the introduction of Graham and Pete and Bausch, those are like fierce women in concert dance who were like, Martha Graham's center of that theory is like about the contraction and the uterus, and like you can basically give yourself your period doing Graham, and it's like rock and roll. It's very cool. So I think the dance is in an accepting place ultimately, but it's within the dancers. We are all like learning that our bodies are like amphibious machines. Like to know that I'm doing something that strong and to be so in control of my body and so empowered by my expression with my body while listening to music, for sure, it was just like such a personal intimacy that gave me permission to have a genuine relationship to myself. But I wouldn't say that my chapter in ballet was super, well, here's the punchline. My dance teacher came out as gay eventually.
Oh, wow.
After telling us for years that we all should never have a boyfriend, which is iconic because what she meant by that was don't have a boyfriend, they'll distract you from this career. But also, we like all turned out gay. Honestly, like everyone that I grew up dancing with is gay.
Wow.
So yeah, there's something to it. I mean, I think the thing to it especially is that we're being empowered physically. We're creating a connection and an autonomy with ourselves and our bodies, and then also learning how to work together, and also like dismantling an overt sexualization of other bodies. Like I feel really grateful that I personally am not like wowie zowied by sexy people. I'm not like, wow, look at all those muscles. Like I've seen muscles my whole life. I've seen incredible godlike physiques my whole life, and I have so much respect for it. But to like ogle over it is just like not in my bones, because that's your tool, that's your machine. So I think there's something inherently like kind of non-binary about all learning that we're just bones and muscles, and we all have similar options in these frames, but mostly the autonomy and the permission to think about my body the way that I wanted to, and to trust myself. I mean, you're still hyper disciplined in ballet. You can only ever wear a skirt, not pants, to class. Like things like that are just inherited from choreographers like Balanchine and the big ballet companies, where again, women are, I feel like we're moving away from this a little bit. We're moving a little bit away with people like Misty Copeland, who is like a hair thicker than every other ballerina, and a beautiful Black woman who tones her point shoes to her skin tone. She refuses to wear the satin pink point shoe. But like all those things are sort of archaic, and because it's traditional technique, they remain part of what you just like accept to do what you love.
Right.
We had a ballet teacher in my dance conservatory that was like, reach for the diamonds, girls, like wear your dangle earrings and your red lips. And it's just like, there's almost something so drag about that I'm on board. But I'm also like, what are we doing? Like, we're literally all sweating and working so hard. This is a sport. But yeah, once I went to college, I was like, wow, I'm around a bunch of people who have been trained in modern and all these other things. I went to SUNY Purchase, which is the redheaded stepchild of Juilliard. It's like an awesome state school with a great conservatory. But like, we also know we're not the best, so we work really fucking hard. And yeah, I was just suddenly thrust into like people from all over the world who have this incredible talent and connection to their bodies. And yeah, a lot of gay people.
So in college, it kind of shifted.
Yeah, because they were like, you can't do ballet. Your butt is too big.
Oh, God.
It's a body thing that maybe has changed since I quit ballet, but I was definitely encouraged to do modern. And I'm so glad, because it is a way more progressive art form with so many things that like literally saved my body from the ways that I contorted it for my entire childhood. And once the doors are thrust open to that level of thinking and that like moment in art, there are just so many options, and I'm gonna be a dancer forever because of that. Whereas as a ballerina, I probably would have been done at like 4 years ago.
God, that's so sad.
Isn't it?
That just makes me so...
It's fucking sad. But if you love something, you find a way, and that's how I landed in singing. And I know that makes me sound sort of like, I'm like, well, whatever, I always want to be a dancer, don't care about music. But in a way, music and singing was an easy transfer for me from dance, because it's another instrument of my body, and it's another delivery of a story. And I get to choreograph my friends sometimes and keep dance in my life in that way. And my favorite singer in the world is Nina Simone, and she always is like, I am a classical pianist. I don't care if you like my songs. I wanted to be a classical pianist. So I think it's like kind of cool to have something break your heart early on and then land among the stars, because that's the journey your first love took you.
Wow.
I also feel like I must just like have a penchant for things that break your heart, because music is just as hard as dance. It's just as crazy to try to do. It's just as unsupported as an industry in terms of like no guarantees, no real union or protection. But as an expression, I feel like I have been able to unlock a side of my individuality and a side of my like love for language and a connection to people that's direct and communicative. The main thing that I was really excited to transition away from dance into music because of is because as a dancer, I feel like being a choreographer is so hard, and there are so many great people doing it. I knew that wasn't going to be my thing. But when you dance for someone else, you are in their project, and so you are dependent upon a great project happening that features you and gives you the opportunity to communicate what you want to the world. And unfortunately, people aren't really given the permission on a mainstream level to enjoy fine arts. Like concert dance is a fine art. And I think people feel like there's something really alien about it. So while I was a dancer, I felt this huge gap between my experience with the art and the audience. And the audience felt like a lot of old people falling asleep in brooches who just want to say they appreciate the arts. And I didn't feel like young people were invited to interpret what they want. It's the same thing I feel about poetry. Like if you take in something that's more abstract and you know you have the permission to get what you want, what you get from it, and to take that and to feel that fully, then I think more people would be invited to it. But like for my senior project in college, I did this poem to like introduce the entire night of dance. And I wrote a poem. My mom loves it. It's called We Under Sound, and it's about not having to understand art. There's a Billy Collins poem that opens one of his books that is about not choking the meaning out of a piece of art. And so as much as I love that, and I feel like I have permission to ingest all the vitamins of fine art however I receive it, I also really, really want for my energy in art to communicate to a mainstream people something that is necessary. Like I don't do this to feel like somebody thinks I'm good at it. I couldn't, because I started really not knowing what the fuck I was doing. So from jump, I learned that people are responsive to something that is real. And what was real was me singing off key, but honestly and vulnerably. And that gave me a lot of faith in my purpose with music, being that it is for the opportunity to connect and talk directly to people. And since we're on the Made It Out podcast, I especially love that my music And it's very intentional that I've chosen to be out about who I am, because it's so gratifying to hear from people frequently or to see them on tour that are like, thank you for representing this community. Thank you for representing this niche of people who don't look or aren't perceived as non-binary, but live that way. Thank you for being sexually expressive, because I'm afraid to do that. Thank you for rocking the body that you have, because I'm afraid to accept my own curves. Like, all of that feedback is such a good reminder to me of why I make myself available to strangers.
Yeah, why you open that part of yourself up. That makes sense.
And I had the luxury of being on Broadway, and I felt very disconnected from that audience, because it's a gigantic audience it's just all Black, and you're just doing the same thing every night, and it's someone else's creation. So I think a common thread that I didn't anticipate in my life is that I am a communicator and a creator, and I am willing to be a liaison for the things I care about. And I want my art to have something to do with that. I don't want to just be like a good dancer in someone else's idea.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Wow. So I'm a huge fan of rap shit.
Let's go. Let's pivot away from all this sincere shit.
Well, yeah, that's not singing or dancing. So I want to know, well, kind of, but I want to know how you got into that. What landed you acting and on that show?
I just knew that I wanted to act. I wanted to try everything other than work in the service industry and other than hand out condoms in Times Square. And so I eventually got an agent. I got an agent because of the show Trinkets, which is another show I was in. I got to sing my own music and play a queer heartthrob. That's honestly where a lot of my music fans come from. So that was cool. Kissed somebody on screen. It was iconic to have a sapphic like rom-com moment. Shout out all the fans who love Trinkets. Thank you. But then, so Rap Shit was just an audition. I got an audition through my agents, and the real tea is that I was so excited to get it because before I ever sang, I did spoken word poetry, and I loved, like, I'm not like a hip hop head. Like, I can't, if you quote me a song and you ask me to do the rest of the lyrics, I'm not going to know them, but I do know all the lyrics to my favorite shit. Yeah. and the audition was like to improv a scene and then to rap some shit. And I went in all day. I spent the whole day rapping my favorite verses in my hotel room. And then I think the tape might not have gone anywhere if my agent, April King, shout out, didn't go up and say, Kat Cunning for Rain or Rain to the people that needed to hear that. And I think I'm about to say too much, so I'll just leave it there. But anyway, she rode for me. She pushed for me for that role. And I think at the time they were looking for actual white rappers. They had like a lot of people who were real musicians in that show, incredible musicians in that show. But I think they would have gone with somebody like Queen Herbie or something like that if they were willing. But it was such a, if you read the script, you know you're about to be clowned. Like, this is not a celebrate white rappers show.
Right.
But I was so surprised to find out that when I was actually on it, they were like, we're not going to make this easy for them. Don't be the worst rapper in the world. Try. Like, I cut the records for that show with Danja, who makes the records with one of my personal favorites, Justin Timberlake. But like, he's a very legit producer. And I went and I was like, oh, I don't think you want me to suck at this. So I'm going to try. And we made a couple records for the show that were awesome. And I had so much fun.
So good.
Thank you. The people, they love them. Good. I sometimes hear them out at gay parties because also like the extra special icing on the cake for me was that what I rapped about was eating pussy. Like, when I met the person who wrote that, I was like, you gay. And I was so grateful.
Great.
But yeah, it was just like just an audition, and then I got it, and then it was a wild ride because I think they had no reason to think I understood the social gravity of this role until they saw me perform it. And also, so many people, when I tell them I played Rain or Rain, they're like, what? No, you didn't. Like, it's such a presentation. It's such a specific character presentation. And I got a little method while I was playing Rain and Rain, and that was dangerous for myself and my communities. But but it was such a privilege. I've been obsessed with Issa Rae since she did Awkward Black Girl on YouTube. Yeah. And like to be a part of her creation, I was going to do anything. And I sort of did. I sort of put like my life on the line. I got death threats for... Yes. Condolences before the podcast. No, it was, but it was what it was supposed to do. I played that character as a performance art piece to me. Like that was an opportunity to comment on something socially, which was that white rappers exist in their fame because we choose to consume them. We choose to celebrate that. And I haven't landed on a concrete opinion about whether or not we should. And I think that was the point of the show, was to like, who belongs to hip hop and who does hip hop belong to, with two Black women at the forefront of the story, which obviously like champion them, please. But like, I loved that they wrote my character to have a little bit of ambiguity and to just make people think about like what we choose to consume. Why does an Iggy Azalea or a Jack Harlow get further than some of the greatest Black rappers? Like, yeah. And something I learned in my research is that like we don't really have a problem with white male rappers. We just have a problem with white female rappers. Not that I'm out here to make it my duty to be like support white female rappers, but like, yeah, it was an interesting thing to dive into really, really fully for a story I really believe in and for a lot of incredible artists. And I wish desperately that we had another season to keep fleshing out that story.
Me too.
Yes.
If you haven't watched it, please go watch, because it is absolutely incredible.
If only for the disbelief that it is in fact me playing Rain and Rain. You could just do a quick little Google.
Playing these very feminine and also masculine roles, how did that allow you to kind of explore your fluidity?
I'm gonna be honest with you. That's all I'm doing. We're here on a podcast. I have not been given the opportunity to play at least presenting masculine characters. I think, unfortunately, when a gigantic conglomeration of a network or not a network or whatever, when people put money into a project, if it's not a super gay show with a lot of gay characters, they don't have room to check a lot of boxes. So they go for the person who says, we hired a gay, which unfortunately is like oftentimes the degree to which they go, like, that's all the research. They're like, let's get some lesbians so that we have some lesbians in the show. So yeah, I haven't played a lot of masculine roles, but what I will say is I just played my first lead in a feature film. It's an indie. It's called Star People. And I am so, so, so grateful that my opportunity to do that didn't come sooner and didn't come differently, because this person is me in so many ways.
Wow.
And it's not even a queer story. It's just a story of a person that is essentially neutral, and essentially neutral in their gender, or actually they prioritize their obsession with what they love to do more than they prioritize their identity or how they communicate it to other people.
Wow.
And so for me, I played that, although this is my backstory, as me, as a non-binary person who doesn't care whether the people in the story are saying the right pronouns because she's focused on something else. And I dressed in a way that wasn't hyper feminine, and I didn't really wear makeup, and I like put my hair back as often as I could, and I like was wearing cargo shorts. And I as much as I wish we didn't care so much about fashion, it is such a thing. Your body moves differently in different clothes. I want all the options to move really differently. But when I put on a tank top and cargo shorts and hiking boots to play this role for an entire month and a half, it was a very emotional experience for me to be trusted as someone who is mostly perceived as like a Shirley Temple just because I have curly blonde hair, or a Marilyn Monroe or whatever. Like, those are some of the tropes that I feel like are subversively aligned with my phenotype. And to just be trusted with something that is about the story and is about the character and is about the human was super gender affirming for me to say the least. And I know that the people who wrote the project had no idea that that's what they were doing. But yeah, obviously it meant a lot to me. And I oh God, I'm crying on the podcast.
Oh.
But it meant a lot to me because I've made a career out of being able to shape shift and being able to make commentary on what we expect from women by using my body as the mannequin in that story. And I didn't even really anticipate, how much it would mean to me to get to, it's kind of funny because the word in film, if you're the lead, is the straight man.
Oh my gosh.
But I got to be the straight man.
Yeah.
And it meant a lot to me to just be the human whose internal thought you're following through the story instead of the caricaturesque, bubbly, or whatever else that's extreme. Mm-hmm. But interestingly enough, playing Raina Rain is just as empowering because I got to go so far into an entirely different skin, literally, and to still participate in this story that means so much to me politically and with people that I think are incredible. So all of acting is I feel so non-binary as an actor. Just generally, I feel like a neutral canvas and I can flop into any person in a really method way. But yeah, to play somebody a little closer to my own identity was life-changing. And I hope they just cut it together and put it out tomorrow so that the world can know who else I am.
I cannot wait to see it. I think the way that you're living is so inspiring and beautiful and really makes me want to even know myself more, you know, and explore more, because I think so many of us only get to scratch the surface of what we are. Mm-hmm. And seeing someone like you, it's just inspiring to others to be there's so much more out there and we don't just have to be this one thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I really love that.
I appreciate that.
Sharing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for having a platform to talk about it because like I said, that's my main communicator. And I just have a lot of faith in conversation. Weirdly, as a little kid, I kind of knew I was going to be in the public eye at some point, and I practiced speeches of how I would recover from being canceled because my nudes were leaked. Probably because I saw Notting Hill really young, when she's
favorite movie.
It's iconic, and she's in the bed and she's they go to bed with whoever and they wake up with me, and then she's my tits are out in society. What do we do? I have to sequester. And I was I never want to have to worry about that. That's so stressful. So I'm just going to put my nudes out by myself. But
iconic.
But you know what I mean? I feel like there's been a consciousness for me around preparing for it and believing in the ability to speak your truth. That's my favorite tool. And the only thing is unfortunately now, and this is a derailment, so we cannot go here, but I really do worry for society around cancel culture. I really worry for us being able to just collectively be if you don't like them, you better not like them. Do you like them? Because people make mistakes and there's not a lot of learning culture. And I think we need to have patience with people. And I think we need to have face-to-face conversations. And I think we need to familiarize ourselves with mistakes in communication and forgiveness in communication and create more platforms for real chats.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when you're so afraid to say something out loud, you're really stunting people's ability to learn and grow and evolve.
Yeah. And to say the wrong thing. If you're able to say the wrong thing, be corrected and learn something that's so much better than you just hiding in the wings and do the wrong thing your whole fucking life. Mm-hmm. Which I feel is how people end up getting canceled is they're not engaging with other people and hearing other perspectives that essentially educate them on how ignorant they sound.
Right.
If we don't have conversations and if we don't allow for mistakes, then there's going to be nobody left.
Yeah.
Or it's just going to be the people who have been careful enough not to share anything. And I really fear that lack of vulnerability and openness in culture. Because if we all just keep to ourselves and hope not to ever fuck up, we're going to try a lot less shit and we're going to learn a lot less shit.
Yeah. We're not going to evolve.
Yeah.
Love that. What advice do you have for somebody who is trying to explore more fluidity and can't get past all of the learned binary?
There's so many places to start. But I feel like the main anchor for me is just having confidence in the fact that my identity is separate from my presentation and from my expression. And if you can invite someone into that conversation when dating or when making friends or when talking to your parents, like, it's such a good mantra to come back to, because it's like, you may not, I know you're confused because you are perceiving me as communicating something to you, but listen to me. Receive me as a person who has the courage to say something to you about how you could love me better, regardless of how I look, regardless of what's in my pants. None of that has to be your business. If I tell you that something makes me feel more loved and gives me more permission to show up in this relationship, would you mind trying it? Whether it's your pronouns or like, let me open a door for you every once in a while. It makes me feel like a man. Like, whatever it is, like, just have the courage to try the thing. And on the other side of that, have the courage to try drawing a boundary when someone's offending you. But also, with boundaries is interesting because it's like, that could easily be interpreted as make sure everyone on your set knows your pronouns. To me, that's a little battle. I think that also if we get up in arms about having to like advertise and activate all the fucking time, that's exhausting. Listen to yourself about when you have the energy to educate and or share yourself with people. I feel like I personally really pick and choose when I'm going to fight the battle of getting someone to really understand me. It is ultimately your body, your life, your brain you have to live in. And if you're going to more conveniently pass through a conversation with a stranger at the bodega with them calling you girl, who gives a fuck? I just want my lox on my bagel. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't have to be a battle every day. Check in with your energy and make sure that the people close to you are given the permission to love you well.
What are you working on in therapy?
You're assuming I can afford therapy. No, I'm going to be honest with you. I actually had free therapy for many years, and I loved my therapists. They had to turn over because they were in graduate school, but I don't have a therapist right now. But
What you're working on personally?
no, it's okay. I can remember my last therapy assignment. This is good for me. It was only recently that my therapist left me. No, I think I'm mostly working on checking in with myself about how I'm showing up in relationship and what a healthy relationship looks and feels like to me. I really, really love partnership. I love it so much. I am ADD as fuck. I love a body double. Like, let me know that really happened. Let me know it's really Tuesday. But also, I'm also like super inherently polyamorous person. I'm not currently practicing what most people would call polyamory, which is like fucking a bunch of people. I feel like that's LA's interpretation of polyamory, which is very stressful for me. But I need to check in with my partner and make sure that we both are given the permission to be people who evolve daily, who are allowed to fall in love with whatever, whenever, who are taking each other's needs and joys and losses, all these things into account while also caring for our work. What I'm really trying to say in a long-winded way is that I tend to be obsessive about work. And I'm working on that.
How do you work on that?
I think I work on that by being willing to listen to the people who care about me. First of all, having good enough judgment to know who to trust, working on that, working on like building trust in an authentic way and not moving too quickly, but also being willing to think I might be wrong to be on the computer all fucking day today. If you're like, I'm hungry, you're like, touch my titties, I miss you. Like, I'm gonna be like, you're probably right. I'm like learning to let go of the control of all the time obsessing over what makes me feel valid and like I'm contributing, because I want other people in my life, and I think everything that's worth earning is worth sharing. Dang, that was a bar. Am I drinking wine out of a straw, or are you? Anyway,
I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty good, right? Is that the end?
That's the end.
You're gonna end on therapy?
We end on therapy.
Dang, that is.
No. Actually, we end on the game. We end on the game.
Oh God, is it trivia?
No.
Okay, great.
No. It's called You Haul or You Ghost.
Okay, got you. I'm ready.
Okay. Every time they reference the club, they say club.
100 U-Haul.
Every time?
Why not? You're committed.
All right. U-Haul.
Listen, you're going to find that I'm a very forgiving person. I might U-Haul with all of these. If I imagine the best person, I'm like, whatever. People love to hear you say club. You pull it off.
Okay. Needs to have sex every day, twice a day.
Okay, no. That is a you ghost, mostly because sex is not something that you... Listen, if they need to have sex with another outlet or their vibrator or whatever, the idea of sex being an expectation put on your partner, not cute. If I feel a pressure to do that, even though I fucking love sex and I'm probably that guy in the situation, I feel like you have to just be respectful of each other's boundaries, and you have to be... I feel like too much pressure on especially not scheduling sex, but like thinking there is an amount of sex that is the right amount of sex. Mm-hmm. Work through it. Call me later.
Yeah, you ghost.
I ghost.
Wants you to join a daily FaceTime with their family where they share their daily pits and peaks. Daily?
A daily FaceTime. And what the fuck is a pits and peaks? Are we showing our armpits and our titties? Or are we talking about highs and lows?
I think we're talking about highs and lows.
Okay. Who wrote this shit? Perverts? Yeah, that's an I ghost. I think that's an I ghost. Yeah, I can't call anybody every day.
Neither can I. I can't imagine daily.
I can't prepare for a FaceTime every day. No. No, that's very stressful. And by prepare, I mean mentally. This is not how my face looks every day.
Okay. Listens to Christmas music every day of the, it just stops, year.
We're going to assume it's
month.
year. Yeah, I'm into that. I love Christmas music, but it really depends on your taste. If it's Bing Crosby, if you're giving me like jazz, classic, old shit, I'm into it. If you're giving me the same Mariah Carey song every day, I will probably kill you and it will be no fault of mine.
I think either way, I'm you ghost.
Either way.
I can't do Frosty the Snowman 365.
Okay, so you're right. There are lots of other Christmas songs that I'm not considering those. I'm considering my favorite ones. Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock. If that was my alarm in the morning, I wouldn't be mad.
I think I would detest rock. Christmas. I think Christmas would come around and I'd be like,
for sure, you would be desensitized to Christmas. You'd be like, I've been doing this.
Where have you guys been?
But wait, do you get presents every day that they play Christmas
Well, then
music?
I can do it. That's a different story.
Precisely. If it's actually Christmas every day, down. Down. But yeah, I think I could live. U-Haul. I'm just a U-Hauler.
You are a U-Hauler.
For the right one. Shit.
Can you tell us where to find you? What you have coming up?
Kat Cunning everywhere. That's K-A-T, like a human. C-U-N-N-I-N-G, like cunnilingus. And you can find me on Instagram, on Spotify, on IMDb if you want to check my star meter, you freak. And I have a new movie coming up. It's called Star People. I don't know when it's going to come out because it's an indie film. So like hold your breath for 2 years probably. But it's going to be fucking incredible. And I'm so excited. And I also have a movie called On Swift Horses that's coming with Jacob Elordi and Daisy Edgar Jones.
Oh my gosh.
It's a little queer coded. It's a period piece. And I have an EP coming this fall, my debut EP, because I have resisted the commitment to an actual EP project the entire time I've been a singer. So that's going to happen. I think it might be called Dancer. So this is a pretty apropos interview. Actually, I didn't even think about that. Wow, this wasn't a tangent. That's great. And other than that, just follow my Instagram and use my songs in your reels. Otherwise, I'll never make money and I'll go hungry and die.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. I love this conversation.
My
I
fucking
appreciate
pleasure.
you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Queers.
That's today's episode. Thank y'all for listening. If you liked it, please share with a friend. Go comment on all our shit. It really helps us make more episodes for you. You can find today's guest at Kat Cunning, me at Mal Glowinky, our show at Made It Out Podcast. Today's episode was produced and edited by Matilda Jordan and worked on solely by lesbians.
Lick my ear slowly. Whisper my favorite food. And then fuck me hard.